Good evening. Welcome to another series of Youth Vibes presented by the Democratic Labour Party through this medium, DLP TV. This evening, we want to discuss the topic, politics, standards, and parliament. Are the youth impressed? The young people of the party that we have with us this evening are Dr. Elvis Wickham, Mr. Ramon Goodman, and to my right, Mr. Dale Rowe. To repeat, the discussion this evening is about politics, standards, and parliament. And we ask the question, are the youth impressed? I'm going to ask our director to play an excerpt of a speech given in Parliament this week. Director?
I, like the Honourable Member for Christchurch South, believe that once we are in this place, having been sent by those who elected us, we speak on their behalf. I know who sent me, and I know where I remain. I'm not courting anywhere else. Those who sent me, as a matter of fact, the Bible has a phrase for those who court outside of who they belong to. It is biblical, Mr. Speaker. I don't know if it is parliamentary, but I suspect that, given that we start the day with scripture, that biblical is probably parliamentary. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I know that scripture uses the word whoredom.
Thank you very much. I assume all of you heard that excerpt. Director, I assume all of our viewers were able to hear the excerpt. I want to say to our viewers and listeners that the word there used by the parliamentarian Colin Jordan on Tuesday in Parliament is not a word that we would use on this panel. We call ourselves honest voices for the people, and included in honesty is decency. And so if Mr. Jordan uses that word in Parliament, and you will note that even before the use of the word, he apprehended that it may have been unparliamentary, and the excuse he gave for using that word was that it is contained in the scriptures, and since Parliament begins with reference to the scriptures, in spite of his doubts, he felt that he had the right to use a word that is not used in polite conversation. It's not used, certainly it's not used in church, and it ought not to have been used in Parliament. And we feel that a discussion needs to take place in Barbados about Parliament, about standards, about decency. And I sit here tonight in the company of young men who aspire to Parliament. And the question, the topic is asking, are the youth impressed? Would the young people in Barbados have been impressed by what Mr. Colin Jordan said in Parliament? We don't know if he intended it as a joke, but I suspect that for the overwhelming majority of decent young Barbadians, it is not impressive. That was not an impressive use of language. And that's why we've invited this panel here this evening to discuss not so much the utterance, but the question of standards in politics. And I want to ask this panel a series of questions to promote discussion generally on standards, generally on Parliament. The first question I'm going to ask, though, by way of introduction, for the time being, let us try to forget that utterance. Let us try to forget what came close to profanity in the Parliament of Barbados. And let us ask the question, a personal question perhaps. Do we remember the age at which we became politically aware? Doc, you're going to go first. You're to the far left. Start left from top down.
Good evening, Barbados. For me, it was around age 15, 16.
15, 16. All right, we'll come here.
Yes, no problem at all.
Bill, you're the age at which you remember becoming politically aware. You became aware that there's something called political life and there are politicians. And so what age were you?
15, 16.
15, 16. So like the dot 15, 16. Ramon.
Yeah, mine was a little later. Mine was at 30 years old. I was
30.
Yes, a little older.
You're provoking
yes, of course.
Discussion.
Of course.
So that you moved from 0 to 29.
Yes, of course.
And you had no political awareness.
Why
you didn't make contact with the fact that there was something called the political system. There were politicians. There was a parliament.
That is correct. However, there were so many other things that were going on. That is correct.
That's interesting because, and that will get us to the heart of the matter, because a lot of the young people in Barbados are not attuned to politics and politicians.
Of course.
Yeah. So we have the Dr. Wickham saying 15, Dale says 15, and you double that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Doctor, which event do you associate with that political awareness, that first political awareness?
There was a general election campaign that year, so you were hearing about it, and I decided to hop on the bus and
you don't mind saying which year, or you don't want to tell? Okay, let's give the year.
Election campaign that year, and then I decided to hop on the bus and go to Oystons to
Really?
attend one of those.
At the age of 15,
Yes, please.
you went alone?
Yes, I did.
Oh, what was that meeting like?
Interesting experience.
Uh-huh.
I thought back then some of what I saw and heard on the platform
Yes.
was unfortunate.
I was leading into that.
Yeah.
When you say unfortunate, the language.
Or the language. I heard is a very senior politician in the country at the time.
Don't tell us that.
I'm not going to call the name.
Right, okay.
But I heard a very senior politician in the country at the time
Mhm.
curse
He
another
cursed
politician. Yeah,
through the microphone.
through the microphone.
He used what we call in Barbados curse
words.
Really?
That was my first political experience.
And I'll come back and ask you the follow-up question. So I'm going to ask you what was your reaction, but I'll come to Dale. Dale, which event made you politically aware?
You're thinking about it was when the Honorable David.
Give us a little more volume.
Thinking about it, and Honorable David Thompson, when he became Prime Minister, I remember I was 15 when he was aware was fearful for all schools.
All right, you were at school.
And then my second event, I graduated from youth service. And I
Keep the volume up. Keep
Yeah.
the volume up.
graduated from youth service as a valedictorian.
Uh-huh.
And
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. Dr. Esther Mexico, she gave me the award for Vincent's Award.
And you knew that Dr. Marisa, who was a politician,
Yes.
and that she was the minister who dealt with your service. She spoke to you.
Yeah,
So
she spoke to
you had a
me.
conversation.
We had a conversation, and then she extended a lot of words of encouragement. I met her a couple of times after that. So
And she remembered you?
Yes. Fun fact is that
She was a good politician, or you were that handsome?
I think
Okay. Okay.
so. I also were in touch with her in 2023.
2023.
Yes, I was managing West Coast Hotel.
Uh-huh.
She came there for dinner. And she remembered.
She remembered you. It's a good politician. Yes. But Ramon,
Yes,
which
definitely.
event made you politically aware? Which event opened your eyes? There's something up there called politics.
Yeah, well, I got to go back a little bit. I was involved in many about cricket,
I
especially
know.
in a serious
Ramon
way.
played cricket for
Barbados
Barbados.
on the
Youth
15th.
cricket.
That's
You
correct.
have to remind me
Of course. I batted and
Batsman.
yeah, batsman and bowler,
Good.
like leg spin
Leg
bowler.
spin.
Yeah,
Okay.
leg spin bowler.
Okay.
So I was into that. I was also obviously into other activities. I was at some point into scouts. I was more of a scout. So into clubs, into into the more, worldly things.
Mhm,
The more worldly things. I would go out and I would party
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Yes.
Right? So there was a lot of distractions then.
Mhm.
But I remember this one Sunday, as I got a little older,
Mhm.
I think Brass Tacks was on.
Mhm.
Brass Tacks was on. And my mother, my father, they got into a heated argument on a particular political issue.
Mhm.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Because, by their parents, obviously, they share different opinions
Really?
on different sides. That is correct.
Mhm.
Right? But that one Sunday, I stopped. For some reason, I had a situation where I stopped and I just listened to what
Yes.
was going
And
on.
it was a political discussion.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
I am here wondering if I should ask you the details of that, if it is a little too invasive of your privacy.
Well,
But you do remember they
that
had
is
an
correct.
argument
Yes,
over politics,
that is correct. Yes.
and they were listening to this
The
radio
Brass
program.
Tacks, that's correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I better leave that. Miss, when you heard this politician using curse words through the microphone, you're 15 years old. You remember it, so it means it impacted.
Yes.
And I'm not going to ask you the easy question as to whether it impacted negatively. It must have. But as a young person, how did it leave you feeling?
It definitely left a bad taste. Like I said, this was my first meeting.
You were
General
disappointed?
election is in the air. Yes, you expected better.
Right.
You expected better. That was around the age when I had only just started going to church.
Mhm.
So I certainly didn't
Ah.
go to a meeting expecting my ears to be assaulted
I see.
by
I see.
those curse words.
see.
You expected better. They're adults.
Mhm.
Behave yourself.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
enough awareness at the time to think that this is not right.
Mhm.
Make your point
Yeah.
and for or against, for yourself, against your opponent, make your points, but do so in a manner that is wholesome.
Do you think it turned you away from politics? That one incident.
It certainly left me thinking at the time I don't want to be involved. If
Correct.
this
You
is
don't
what
want if
politics
this is the
is.
standard.
Yeah,
That's not you.
that's not me.
And of course, at the time you just converted.
Yes, please.
You had your religious conversion.
Yes.
So it was more than a disappointment. It must have traumatized you because there's a connection. I always say there's a connection between politicians and pastors. They, in a sense, they minister to people, one politically, the other religiously.
Yeah. You definitely expected better because, like I said, this is a senior politician,
No
in
names,
the
no
country. No name, a senior politician in the country at the time. And I'm thinking, is this what it is about? This is how you behave or how you're supposed to behave, What are people my age supposed to think? What are we supposed to do? Is
Yeah.
this how we are supposed to behave as well? How we're supposed to speak about persons with whom we have disagreements?
Yeah.
So I had enough awareness at the time, even though I had only just started going to church, that we have to be able to do better.
Yeah.
We have to be able to do better.
Yeah. Ramon, your political awareness was born out of an argument.
That is correct. Yes.
And how did that argument leave you feeling about politics? Was it a pleasant feeling? Was it unpleasant? Did you say, this is probably something that I want to get involved in, or I don't want to get involved in this? How did that argument leave you feeling about politics?
Well, some words that were used, obviously, in the argument were desirable.
You're not gonna use the word.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not.
But how did it leave you feeling about getting involved in politics or not getting involved?
I felt the same way as my colleague.
Dr. Young?
Definitely. I don't want any part of this.
Mhm.
Any part of this at all.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
it was a robust argument.
Robust.
Robust argument.
You were afraid?
No, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid. But it's something I said, but this is not desirable at all.
But here you are some time later and you're involved in
That
politics.
is correct. Because the wisdom is there, the understanding has grown in a serious way.
Yes. Now, Dale here had a more favorable impression. Perhaps you like the minister. But that incident, not the incident, the interaction with the politician, which gave birth to your political interest. Did you think at the time, look, I think this is something I want to be involved in?
Yes.
And you were 15 years old.
Yeah, 15 years old.
And that interaction with the minister
No, it was 16.
16.
16, but 15 was when David Thompson.
Oh, I see. So 16 years old, you interact with this minister, you're presented with a prize for best student at youth service. Excellent, congrats. And what did you say at the time? Your career then, you went into the hotel industry. I think the public has heard you before, but you don't now know this. But at that point, let us come back to those two interactions. Did those two interactions bring to life an interest?
Yes,
In
honestly did.
Did you say, I want to be a politician like that?
The only body that a few people know about this situation, Laura Thomas, she was my counselor at youth service.
Yeah.
So she was encouraging our group to create an email address,
Mhm.
an email address. And my first ever email address was the Honorable Dale.
They were you
And Mrs. Thomas, every time she saw it, she laughed.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, so I hope Mrs. Thomas is tuned in now, and she could attest to that. You know?
I'm going to tell you something very funny. When I was 15, I did not have an email address. You know what? Like, email didn't. All right. So you're 15, 16,
30.
30. When you were growing up, let's leave the meeting of politicians, the encounters with politicians aside. Let's go to 15. When you were 15 years old, did you have optimistic feelings about Barbados, about your life chances here? Did you consider that you lived in a country in which you could spend the rest of your life and have a good life? Were you optimistic? Who goes first, Roman?
Yeah, I can go first.
Yes.
By that point in time, I was playing cricket, as you would.
No, let's go to 15.
Mhm. 15, I was
You were playing cricket.
I was playing cricket, yes.
Doesn't
I was
matter.
playing cricket.
At the age of 15,
Mhm.
whether it is cricket, whatever, did you think that your country would give you a good life?
At that point in time,
Yes.
yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You felt so?
Yes, I did.
Why,
yes.
why did you think so?
Well, again, I was unaware of a lot of things, so
Uh-huh.
ignorance was bliss at that point. At that point in
I
time,
like that. You were
ignorance.
protected by your parents.
That is correct. Ignorance.
You were in school,
That is correct.
and all right, let me extend the question. What did you want at the age of 15? What did you want to do? Let's say your working life starts in your 20s.
Yes.
Did you have a vision of a future in which you would be doing something? What was that something?
It's something at that point in time was cricket.
Cricket.
Yes.
You wanted to open batting for the West Indies.
I wanted to bat at number 3.
At number 3.
Yes,
for the
that's
West
correct.
Indies.
And bowl leg spin.
Yes.
Yes. At that
Within
point
the
in time.
context of Barbados, within
Yes.
the context of the West Indies. So you were optimistic.
Optimistic at that
You
point.
felt
in
you
time.
had a goal and you felt you could achieve it.
That is correct. Yes. At
Now
that
yours
point in
would be
time.
an interesting answer. At the age of 15, were you
Well,
feeling optimistic about
Yes.
your chances?
Yes, it was. It
in
was
Barbados.
that age at which I started, also paying more serious attention to my schoolwork
At 15.
at 15. Yeah.
That's why I asked
14,
about
15,
15,
so-
because I know boys at 14, 15 have a little crisis.
Yeah,
A little crisis going
14,
on.
15 is when I had started to pay closer attention
Mhm.
to my studies, my academics. And for me, I knew that academics was going to be it. I
You-
grew up in a very
right.
poor situation,
Right,
very
right.
difficult situation.
And that was the
And-
layout.
And that
education.
was the way out for me.
Yes.
And so from around that age, I was eyeing that I could work towards a Barbados scholarship, which would afford me the opportunity to study overseas.
Yes.
What I wanted to study at the time was not available here in Barbados.
Right.
And the only way I was going to be able to afford it was my country afforded me to be able to do so by way of scholarship. So I began applying myself
Mhm.
very astutely to my studies.
And you wanted to be a doctor at that
Yes, please.
time.
Yeah,
So
that
at
was
the
when I
age of
settled
15,
on
you
that.
decided, I want to be a doctor.
Yes, please.
And you felt that Barbados had the resources to allow you to realize that
Yes,
goal.
please, correct.
Yeah.
I would not have been able to do it outside of my country supporting me in that regard.
Precisely. So your country was able to offer you that promise,
Yes, please.
and the country kept the promise,
Yes, it did.
and you won the scholarship.
Yes, I did.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And you became a doctor.
Yes, I did.
So the optimism wasn't wasted. You felt my country would make me would give me a scholarship, my country would make me a doctor. And today we're sitting here with Dr. Elvis Wickham,
Yes, please.
a fine, upstanding young Barbadian. Congrats.
Thank you.
Bill, at the age of 15, you were feeling optimistic or you were pessimistic?
At the age of 15, that was a very hard time
Hard time.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just
Mm-hmm.
and then get employment to help my mom.
Yeah.
That was all about fear.
Yeah.
So you know, at 15, that was a hard
Hard
time.
time.
Very hard time. You know. When
But how did you think? Did you think, in spite of this adversity, in spite of these difficult personal circumstances, did you see success anywhere in the future, or did you think, boy, this is going to be a hard one?
thanks to the Department of Youth Service.
You service.
Yes.
Excellent.
Which was the couple of months later, following a year now. When I was 16, I was at youth service.
So you went into youth service at 16, and this is a good advertisement for young people. This youth service still exists, I think.
Yes, it's
Good.
going to be a different.
Yes. So you went in there. What did you do? If you don't mind?
We did CXCs. We also did roll call in
Mhm.
terms of learning how to march. I would have led in parade for the Independence Day
Mm-hmm.
as the chief leader.
Yeah.
We did sporting activities. So one of my activities was boxing. So
I should.
So youth service offered a lot of initiatives, and as a result, youth service forced me into the health sector.
If the others don't mind, I want to make further inquiry of DLS TV service because we want young people
Yeah.
Of
who
course.
think that
Of course.
difficult circumstances
Yes. Mm-hmm.
to be influenced by your testimony. So your service offered you that opportunity to better your life. And how long did you spend there? Your service?
1 year,
1 year.
and then we did what year where you can just come back into the youth service program. You could just follow up on CXCs and any other craft or athletics that you want to pursue.
And you would not be what is called middle class at the time, upper class. What would you call yourself?
Poor.
Poor.
Yeah.
Poor. Living in St. Michael?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind me asking, where is St. Michael?
Jarvis.
I want this personal testimony to appeal to our young people that sometimes there's a way out of adversity, out of poverty,
Yes.
and you sit here as testimony to that.
Yes, sir.
And you went into the hotel.
Youth service.
Yeah, what did you do in the hotel?
My first job, I was a storeroom clerk.
Storeroom clerk.
Yes.
I had a conversation with you some time ago. You were one of the most prestigious hotels in Barbados. What were you doing there?
Was familiar.
Wine sommelier. Every time you say it, what's the
Person that basically tastes wine, we recommend wine prepared foods and desserts.
And that's a senior position
Yes, sir.
because you got to be testing the wine for people to drink it.
Yes, sir.
And if your testing is bad, they sick or drunk.
I don't.
And today, what are you doing today?
Financial advisor.
Excellent, excellent. Yours has been a transformation that is due to your personal strength and also the fact that your country offered you the opportunity. I congratulate you. I'm going to come to a question which is probably more political. You're out there canvassing. Ramon, you've been canvassing. Doc, you preach in the church every Sunday, so you have some.
Not
kind of
every Sunday,
connection.
but yeah.
Not every Sunday. You're in the church every Sunday, so you have that contact
Yeah.
with young people. And Dale and I went to a funeral this morning, the young man who perished in Old Town. And Dale doesn't know this, but I was standing next to him, and so many young men were there, and a lot of them were standing afar off. And I'm looking at them, and I'm saying, I wonder what is going through their minds in terms of their life. They've come to a funeral of a 20-year-old who died. And I'm asking myself, I wonder what's going through their mind. They've come there. When I was 20, I did not know any 20-year-old who died. So that was never a part of my experience. You reach 20, and like you, Doc, you're looking to take off professionally, study-wise.
Yes.
You're thinking family. You're thinking that when you're 35, you can probably afford things that obviously you couldn't afford as a child.
Yes.
So I am there standing next to you, Dale, and a few times I peeked at you looking at them, and I say, what's going through Dale's mind? Because you canvass with them, and you know a lot about what's going on in their life. I want to ask the difficult question. Today in Barbados, do you get a sense that young people feel as optimistic as you felt? You felt, Ramon. How are young people relating to the future?
Not really. They don't think there's a future.
They don't think so.
At all. Cost of living, finding good
Cost
job,
of living,
finding good
good
jobs,
jobs not available.
extremely difficult.
Yes.
I've seen many situations where lots of applications were sent out and so forth, not a response.
Not a
You know,
response.
they just feel desperate at this time.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Because Ramon, I looked on, and then I was looking at them and I was saying, are these chappies happy? I mean, when I was 20, I was at KFL. I think I was reasonably happy. You left home, I went up there, made some good friends. We joke a lot. And when January, February comes, you stick to your books and you're trying to pass your exams. But it was a reasonably contented life. I mean, no wealth, because I used to walk to university. I'll tell you that story sometime. I was I'm going to come to you because I like to move from side to side. Young people in Barbados, how do they feel about a future?
Right now, a lot of the males that trying to get taken to school are less with no CXCs.
We're hearing Dale, or you want Dale to shout? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the young males right now do not believe that we have a future. Then the young people, the young males believe right now that less with no CXCs or that were expelled. They're thinking I need a gun to protect myself.
Wow.
Because
From?
the police is not to protect me. Politicians can protect me.
Right.
But you get a small argument with somebody, people have guns.
I want to come to that. Yeah, hold that thought. I want to come back to that. Doc, your connection with young people, I don't think you're in the field in the way that Dale is, but how are young people feeling about their life prospects? Are they optimistic, as you and I were? How are they feeling?
From my vantage point, I would say there aren't. What has young persons very concerned in Barbados at the moment, crime situation.
Crime.
You cannot get away from it.
Yes.
Even if you are not
In a
directly
way that
involved.
it did not envelop our life.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Even when I left Barbados, to go study, at that time the crime situation was nothing like it is now. And one of the things that you hear persons talk about, you don't know if you can catch a stray bullet because bullets don't have GPS.
Yeah.
So people are very concerned about crime, and almost as concerned as they are about crime, the other see cost of living.
Yes.
The cash register.
Yes.
You can't afford to live in this country.
Yes.
Yeah, it is extremely difficult, and those are two fundamental things. My life, my physical life, I may get something that is not meant for me. So even if I do not involve myself in nefarious activities, I don't know what may happen. I don't know who's going to try to break into my house. So people are very concerned about crime, and young people very concerned about crime, and they are certainly concerned with the cost of living.
Right. So that my next question, how are they coping? How are you, Ramon, how do you think young men, let's talk about young men and young women. Let's deal with men first. In this environment, how do you think young men are coping with this struggle?
Some young men are, frankly, young men, they are taking illegal drugs.
Doing what?
Taking illegal drugs.
Using it?
Yes, just to get by, just to feel better. Just to feel better for that instant gratification. That is what is happening.
How are they surviving. You can't survive off taking it. Everybody needs money.
Some young men rob and steal. Some young men do
Right.
that. Of course, they're pushed in a corner, and this is no excuse for any crime or
Right.
violence.
It's an explanation.
Of course,
Right.
definitely.
Right. Not an
And
excuse, an explanation.
that is correct.
Right.
So some, they're backed in a corner, and the
Mhm.
first thing they do, they will lash out. They would go and they will try to get that money or whatever they can, however they can. That is what is happening. Along, obviously, with taking narcotics in a serious way to just numb the brain, to do that nefarious
as
thing.
an escape.
That is
An
correct.
escape from reality.
That is
And
correct.
that's something the doc would know about.
That is correct.
As a medical
Mhm.
doctor.
Mhm.
You were about to tell us, Dale, how the young men are coping.
A lot of the young men can't get employment.
Cannot.
Cannot get
Mhm.
employment. A lot of the young men, their focus right now, you know what? The fastest way for me to get money is to be a shooter.
A shooter.
Yeah.
What's a shooter? Shooting pool? Not pretty popular.
Young guys with a lot of shootings that will happen, they would,
Contract shootings?
contract shootings.
What's the term? You're keeping it real here tonight.
These guys get paid, a lot of these get paid, they receive money off the canteen, and if they're going young, within a couple of years, they're back home.
You know, a lot of us in our lives are insulated from this. And we have become involved in politics. And this is something that we have to attempt to deal with. You're trying to deal with it.
We need to,
We need to. All right.
because we would destroy our markets in 100 years to come, 50 years to come.
So many.
Yeah.
You go far. 2 years to come. 2 years to come, unless we have change. We talked about May, Elvis, women. Again, I go back to the funeral this morning. You saw these, in one corner you saw a group of men there, and I looked over my shoulder and I saw another group of men. And the women were differently located. Young women, in fact, we had a chat, 3 of them who went to school with a man, his brother. And they seemed to be on a path of achievement because I spoke to them. Yeah, you were there. They were at Harrison College, and Amani was their junior. 2 are UE, and the other one, she's in a job, a pretty good job too. You've told us about young men. What's happening to the females of equivalent age? What's happening to them?
Generally, the females of equivalent age appear to be more focused on careers and putting themselves in a position where they can take care of themselves, compared to men of the same age.
Mhm.
Various reasons why that is so.
Yeah.
But generally, they appear to be more focused.
Mhm.
I believe a big part of why that is so has to do with the absence of, strong, positive male role models
Mhm.
in the lives of the young men.
Yeah.
Whereas mothers more times are present.
Yeah.
That is not the case for fathers for various reasons. And we're not here tonight to get into those reasons, but
Yeah.
that is a key reason why more of our young men seem to have lost their way.
The word I'm going to use is happy. So we are getting a sense that our young men are not happy because you cannot be happy in the midst of struggle. Young women, 3 young ladies I spoke to seem of good spirit. Didn't get to speak to the men, but from observation, they're in one corner. I'm trying to read their minds. Ramon, why then do females appear to be coping more successfully with struggle? Because they're all from the same society, went to the same schools. And I gave the example on an earlier program of playing cricket at UE, and counting the students who were walking in from the bus stop into the library. And 8 were female, 2 male. Every time I did a poll, I counted 10, 8 female, 2 male. So that the females seem more ambitious, more aspirational, more focused on making it, getting through. Why is that?
Females generally sometimes they have a better support system.
Support
Support system. That is correct. One another. That's the first thing.
Really?
When the going gets tough,
Mhm.
you know, they get into their circles or their triangles or whatever they have, and they talk it out. You know, men are more bravado. You know, it's all about ego. Man, I ain't talking about that there. I ain't talking about that there. You know, and men struggle emotionally, but females, I find they have a better support system in terms of, you know, being more. I believe they depend on one another, and they can depend on other females to have a conversation.
May have to do with the weight of expectation.
Yes.
Do we expect more of our males? And maybe I'm just throwing this out to you. And are the males not coping because of the weight of expectation? They're expected this thing called father in Barbadian culture, a man who carries a family. That's a heavy.
Of course, right? And then
so you think there's greater expectation on men?
Of
than
course,
there is on women?
being the provider.
Being the provider, and he can't provide. So
That
then it's thought to be
that is correct.
a failure.
That is correct. Yes. So it's more pressure on the
More
man,
pressure. That's
right?
the point.
And then we obviously have women, obviously, that depend. I don't know if they can say depend on
On a
multiple. Yes, multiple.
No, we're keeping it real.
Okay, yeah, multiple men.
Dale, why then do you think women appear to be coping better? They all come up with the same circumstances, same school, same communities. Why do women appear to be winning the battle better than men are?
Naturally, women understand emotional intelligence better. So when women do the pros and cons, you know, this environment, my mom have some children, so you know what, I refuse to follow that step. Or you know what, I'm gonna make sure I further my education and help my mom out. You guys think, well, the only way I can help my mom or dad is by fast money.
Right.
So the women have more emotional intelligence, so they prefer to take one step at a time. So these the associate degree, the bachelor's degree, and then apply for the job, work their way up, and then shift that ideology, and try to have young real ones show them about don't go that route. I work studies healthy. So I find that a lot of young women running and need a bit more education, or they start missions, nail, lashes, massages. Well, the young guys, we think that best way right now is nobody.
No. Yeah.
And I just want to make another point.
Yes, please.
A couple of youngsters would have stood up, and they would have taken note of the amount of gentlemen driving the women to UE. So we thought we have an influx of women in UE, but the men are driving.
Literally
the ladies,
drive them in
that is
there.
that is correct. Driving the ladies, carrying them to UE. Right?
So you're not talking about these that are
No, not these that are. No,
fell in a car.
that is correct. Yes.
Doc, you wanted to add?
Yeah, on the point of the girls being, seemingly a bit more focused on their goals and so on. Some of it has to do for sure with how we have raised boys in this country. I have this conversation with my son regularly. It appears as if girls tend to be raised with a little more discipline, whereas in Barbados, and I said some of this is the absence of positive male role models, ideally father, and in boys' lives growing up. We have tended to raise boys with the sense of let them be boys. A little less structure, a little less discipline, and boys will be boys. And unfortunately, boys who never learn discipline grow up to become men who don't have it either.
Right.
And so that is, whereas girls, girls got to be inside the house and do this and do that. And so from early, girls are taught a bit more about responsibility. We know we've moved away from the era of most children having to, certainly rurally, having to deal with sheep, cows, and pigs and all that. So that was where boys growing up got some discipline from.
That's interesting.
They don't have that now.
Chores.
They don't have chores. Yeah, they also run about.
That's
what I'm about. Whereas the girls still tend to be raised to be a little more disciplined and to help out. So from early on, they understand responsibility. And I think it is a deep flaw there with how we raise boys in this country. We have to understand that the boys of today are the men of tomorrow. And we have to raise them differently if we want to see different outcomes.
That's interesting, Elvis, because you mentioned chores. And I want to ask Dale and Ramon the role of or the importance of chores in the lives of boys. I think we were all coming up. And that's a very interesting point. You came home from school, you had to do something.
Do something.
Before you went to school,
Before you went to school, you had to do something.
During the day, you do
You
something.
had to do something.
Chores and the importance of chores and the doc has raised it as an important aspect from the development of young men, the absence of chores. Do you think these chores are important?
Yeah, I think chores.
You're a father.
Yeah, chores are very important.
From what age?
From as early as I would say at least 5.
Five.
5.
Give them something to do.
Something to do.
Yeah.
You know, even if you pack up your toys,
Mhm.
the older you get, then you add on more chores.
Right.
The reason why we need chores are important. We are creating young men and women.
Mhm. Yeah.
If we don't create that in those young people know,
Yeah.
understanding responsibility. This is what goes into paying bills.
Mhm.
So you know what, you're not working.
Mhm.
I think you should help with washing the dishes.
Yeah.
Making sure your clothes are pressed, tidy. In addition to that, learn how to cook.
Mhm.
And also chores, very important. Able to foster that discipline
Mhm.
and sense of responsibility, and also build confidence.
A boy is going to ask you, okay, you give me chores at 5. Up until what age are you taking him? When you can say to him, I want you to do this every day. From 5 until what age you can call him to do this chores?
All children, you still have to be constantly talking about.
Yeah, but how up until what age? Obviously, when he's 25, you can't make him break a sheet.
So that's 13.
13.
Yes, 13.
It's a bit early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they will know that.
5 to 13. Ramon, chores. I know you
18.
know chores are
Of
important.
course, very important. Shows discipline.
Yeah, but up until what age? Dale is going to take the child up to 13 and, okay, you don't have to do these chores anymore. What age you think?
You're still living in the house?
Oh.
18, you're still,
You took the words
18,
out of my
you're still living in the house?
Toilets don't clean themselves.
Of course.
Precisely.
Plates
live in
don't
the
wash
house.
themselves. Grass doesn't cut itself.
This is very
You have
important.
to help out.
Yeah, this
You
is very
have to help
important.
out.
18
This is
years
your
old, yeah.
contribution.
Give Dale an age.
Once you're still under my roof.
Of
What
course.
is still under the
That's
roof?
the age.
Of course.
Whatever age I'm at.
At the age of 13, what
Uh-huh.
I say is that I don't have to say you need to do these things.
Oh, I see.
okay,
I see.
okay,
yes.
okay.
So up until what age then you're
Yeah.
sending him for these chores?
So it's really
Every-
important.
It's
Of
under
course.
my roof.
You live in the
course.
country, you have 2 cows, you have
Of
some
course.
pigs in the yard,
Correct.
or you may have a garden there. You want him to let that garden.
Because right now,
Up until what age? Elvis says as long as he's in
Once
the
you're
house.
on my roof.
As long as he's in the house.
But from
So
13,
suppose
I
he's in
stopped
there
talking.
at 23, 24,
13, I stopped talking. So you know,
or you stop talking
I
at 30.
stopped talking, so you know the routine.
Oh, I
So
see.
at home right now, my 14-year-old, 13-year-old, they
They know the drill.
what they have to do.
What age, Ramon?
You're still living under my roof?
Still under the roof.
That is
That's your
correct.
position.
That is
That's
correct.
my position.
That's
And
correct.
this is part of discipline and life.
Yes.
We have to, from very young, I said it the last time I was here,
Mhm.
easier and better to raise a child than to try to repair an adult. Discipline
Yeah.
has to be instilled, ideally, preferably should certainly be instilled from at home, and you continue it throughout life.
And it's all about taking ownership and
Yeah.
empowerment as well. So this is my thing, because when you go into the world of work, you have a particular role.
Yes.
You own that role. You're empowered by that role. So that is very important to start from in home.
Okay, I started this portion of the discussion by asking the question, under this government, do young people feel optimistic? Somebody's going to tell me, but the government doesn't have a role in the home. But of course, my response always is the government has a role in shaping an ethos. And for this purpose, I want to come to the government's role in shaping the ethos. We're in Barbados now, and we're talking about chores, in which acquiring material goods is extremely important. Your worth is defined by pretty sure that you have. Yes. Or you have if you're going to forfeit, you can't do this 4 times. You got to get 4 sure.
Yeah.
And we live in a culture. The government has been blamed for the rivalry last weekend, Easter, sacred time. So that people are now identifying the government as having a role, of having a role, and perhaps government is breaching its responsibility. Government is helping to foster a culture of materialism, in which your worth depends on the number of pets you can go to, the number of different outfits you can wear. It's important to go down to Kensington some night last weekend and be a part of a big thing. Do you think, my question is, do we think that the government has a role in shaping the culture, the ethos? Do we think the government has a role in that?
So I think
Government by its example, by its attitude. If you have a government that is living high, flying high, a government,
living above its means.
a government precisely.
Barbados right now is living above its means.
Living above its means.
That is what the government is saying to the people, and that tends to filter through to individuals as well. Government isn't responsible for raising my child in my house, but government is responsible for creating an environment to allow me to raise my child in a healthy way. Government is also responsible for setting tone insofar as what it prioritizes. We seem to prioritize money. Now, money clearly is extremely important. You need money.
If you're buying the right thing.
If you're buying the right thing. What I focus a lot on is principles that get you through this world in a sane manner. I put it like this: moral decadence, which seems to be have been thriving, will sink a country faster than a bad economy. We hear that the economy in Barbados is doing great. And let's put that in quotations, by the way. The economy is doing great. There's bounty. There's bounty. And I'm sure the majority of Barbadians, unless you're in a certain class with a certain pedigree that they have spoken of, the majority of Barbadians cannot agree that the economy is great. That's a fallacy. People are afraid of the cash register just as much as they're afraid of crime. So the economy, seems to be the priority. And what we have is a lot of moral decadence. And our country is sinking, even though there's bounty in the economy, which, by the way, still isn't bountiful for everyone. Just a small minority seem to be experiencing this bounty. So that's the ethos, the culture that has been created. It's about money, and living above your means.
Precisely. And then the phrase they're using, punching above our weight.
Champagne taste, small pocket.
Precisely. Dale, you do a lot of work in the city. Dr. Wickham spoke about bounty. Are people in the country, in the city, feeling this bounty?
No, sir.
They're not. So that we had, I'm sorry to interrupt you, so that we had during the budget speech, a minister saying to people, this country is experiencing bounty. And a 15-year-old boy in the city, 18-year-old boy in the city, 24-year-old boy in the city, a man, how does he relate to that rhetoric, to that language, that you are in a country of bounty? So what's wrong with you? How do young men in the city who struggle relate to that language if they hear it?
Honestly, everybody in the city right now needs help. Everybody, some form or fashion.
Yes.
Some may not need money per se because some have jobs, but those jobs really put in the roof over their head.
Yeah.
I personally believe that the government plays an important role as fostering good attitudes, good behaviors, good everything, and the future for our people.
Yeah.
The reason why I say this, working with the primary schools, there are children in school with no breakfast, no lunch, and teachers right now have to pulling their own pockets to buy stationery, supplies.
Let's deal with the food. In my day at Wesley Hall, milk and biscuit. Well, Great Super Parliamentary, Wesley Hall, milk and biscuit. Do they still do that? You know about that, Doc?
Yeah, I remember
No,
the,
milk on biscuit.
the milk. I remember the milk. Yeah, I remember the milk. I remember.
Yeah, so yeah.
I had milk.
So that I want, you're a politician, you're running first in the city and you're going to win too. Do you think there's a case for meals served at school? Free?
Yeah, we need to move away just from only nutrition.
Yeah, I know that's the
Right. We should also not focus on
on
breakfast.
breakfast, late breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, because teachers tell me that children come to school
Yeah. And so
hungry
the first,
and fall asleep.
and the first thing I see these children have is a red buster or orange buster.
Oh,
because
dear.
it's cheap.
You mean they take that to school?
They purchase it. 'Cause, you know,
Or they purchase it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They get a
That's
break
what they
time
can
still?
afford.
Yeah, that's what
So they get a
That's
break.
what they
time.
can
Break
afford.
time.
Yeah, break
A
time. Yeah.
buster.
Yeah.
Sugar.
Sugar.
Yeah.
I witnessed it. I witnessed this like 4 weeks ago.
Mhm.
When I went to school to speak to some students.
Mhm.
The students went for school meals, came back in. While interacting with the students, I asked, so when do you behave bad? Because this was technically the bad behavior. Yeah. So one of the boys said, "Well, I don't get."
Really?
Mm.
One of the little boys said that. So when I started to look in, and I just started to observe like watch these funday,
Mhm.
corn curls.
Yeah.
This then
Coming to the doc.
Mhm.
Coming to the doc on that. We have a doctor on this panel. How-
So the parents can't only afford.
Yeah, precisely.
Mhm.
The cheap foods are the ones that are not good for you.
Yeah,
Tell us
yes,
about
yes. We have
the buster.
we have-
chap comes to school at what, 10 o'clock, he drinks this buster? That's break time?
Pretend we are past that.
What
You
does
see
that
it
do to
also.
him, doc? What is that?
well after that high sugar rush, you're gonna get a crash. So
Yeah.
tired,
Explain
sleepy.
to the crashes.
Yes, when you get a surge in insulin release in the body to bring that sugar level under control,
Yeah.
it will come down and go down and go down, and then you get tired and sleepy.
And he becomes an academic failure,
Very difficult to concentrate.
even if he's bright.
It's harder. It's definitely harder. Even
But
if you
if
even
he's
go
not
bright.
fully
Yeah, yeah.
It would be,
Poor diet certainly
diet.
doesn't help.
so we
And
could lose a lot of our bright people through poor diet.
health wise, generally various health problems. One of the concerns, I think the Ministry of Education has rightfully tried to address healthy eating in schools. But the issue I've always said still remains: healthy food is way more expensive.
Yes.
You can still buy that buster.
Yeah.
But to buy equivalent volume of juice is going to be twice as much.
Mhm.
The healthy food is still too expensive. So,
Yeah.
and even with the increased cost of soft drink because of the sugar tax, as they call it,
Mhm.
it is still cheaper than equivalent volume of juice.
So we're drafting manifestos, Ramon, for change in the schools. The government needs to intervene in the lives of children in schools and consider alleviating a child's life from the buster. Oh, let's not call it commercial name. From the soft
Stop for the soft drink.
from the soft drink. Should then government reinstitute that mid-morning meal for children?
Of course, one of the most important meals.
That's something we should be talking about.
Of course, one of the most important breakfast,
Yeah,
first meal
yeah,
of
yeah.
the day. And a lot of children they will be hungry. You know what hungry is?
hungry,
Yes,
hungry and
of course. A lot of children
I love
they
talking to
are
young people.
they are hungry.
Your words every week. They're hungry.
and then you got all the other aggression issues and so
Yeah.
forth because they are hungry.
They're hungry.
No doubt about that.
You become a representative for the city. Democratic Labour Party wins the election. If it is God's will, how do you solve this problem of children being hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Sir, I would say to you and my fellow comrades,
Mhm.
as opposed to taking 12 months to create a budget for the gathering, let's use this money.
This is why you're going to win.
Let's use this for gathering money
Yes,
to actually put something there for our
precisely.
school children.
Precisely.
The most expensive thing right now is books in primary school.
Really.
Yeah, primary school, they have to pay for every single textbook.
Exercise book or text?
Both. And the texts are expensive.
And the texts are
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
So those parents that have 3 and 4 children working on minimum wage here, 50 an hour, which is $340 a week, taxes come out of that, then we buy $295, they're paying rent $200. How are you going to buy school books?
You think the educational system then needs to offer more support at primary school?
Yes.
You know, government will steal the ideas off this program,
Yeah, sure.
but we don't mind.
We do. Because it's the
The first heard
benefit.
it on DLP TV.
Yes. It's the benefit for millions.
Yeah.
You know, politics as it relates to David Thompson and Aaron Carroll and Dr. Estes should be like, you know what, we need to put things in place.
Yeah.
David Thompson, free bus fare,
Yes.
free education.
Yes.
You know, white Barbadian stuff is white females and males still have to pay so much high money as regards experts for primary school students. You pay $120 in secondary school. So a lot of people can't wait to, you know, every children get to secondary school.
We need greater, this panel is saying we need greater government intervention in the lives of our primary school children.
And I'm also
Come on.
saying, sorry, one of the viewers,
Yeah.
they are
You
talking
want to
about
help us read
yes,
the,
the focus should be on PE.
what's the name? Give the person some credit.
Yes, definitely. It's a Dennis Kelman.
Dennis Kelly.
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
Dennis.
he's
Good
watching.
night,
Yes,
Dennis.
he's watching.
You think that's Dennis?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. But I think it should be an intricate balance. Obviously, healthier food in the school, breakfast, lunch, healthier options, and also a rigorous PE program, a rigorous exercise program as well to maintain that.
So what may be happening in our schools may be producing a lot of unhealthy children who are unhealthy because of their home circumstances. They can't afford good foods. And we are saying here that government needs to supplement that and save these children in the school.
And they, from my vantage point, there clearly is the money. The money's there. I
The
really
money-
endorse
yeah,
Dale's point. We have to
Elvis,
tax them, overtax. The money's there.
We
gathering.
plans since last year.
on the last parliamentary sitting, and the public needs to know this, we went to Parliament, they went to Parliament. I mean, they're alone, I'm not lonely.
It's true.
I'm not lonely.
It's true.
On the last day of the sitting of Parliament in the financial year, the government went and voted $14 million for regathering. They tapped on independence celebrations, but I know most of that money was for regathering. And a lot of the regathering money is going to pay for the stage, the lights, the sound, and the entertainers who are singing to 25 and 50 people.
And children are going to school hungry.
And children are going to school hungry.
And children are going to school hungry.
And this is
in
why
country.
I
And going to sleep
asked
hungry.
precisely, and this is why this question began. Under this government, do young people feel happy in their country? A fella at primary school who is hungry, as you say,
Hungry.
Angry.
he's not happy.
Yes.
Yeah, and government has a role to play. But what they're telling us, certainly in relation to crime, it begins at home. But I always say government has a role to play because government played a role in our life. I started it on milk and biscuits, and y'all laugh.
Yeah.
But we went to school, and at 10 o'clock, we got milk and biscuits. You form yourself in a queue, and you went through this. We used to call it the milk room.
Yeah.
And you collected your milk,
I had those days.
and 2 eclipse biscuits.
Two
2
eclipse
eclipse
biscuits,
or so
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
The hard ones.
I remember hard.
What is disappointing for me?
Mhm.
We just had the games.
Yes.
If the government had really cared about the athletes,
Mhm.
from the time you made the national team, the government should have fully sponsored the trip, as opposed to having the parents and coaches trying to get funding to go to the trip.
Say that again, Dave. So the athlete,
The athletes have
who pays for them?
they themselves, the parents and the
You're not
coaches.
serious.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. The
Yeah.
parents pay,
yeah, the parents.
but doesn't the Amateur Athletic Association pay for the athletes?
So I think that the government they should have something that the parents, the athletes don't have to worry.
Sorry, we're going to double check that. We're honest voices.
Yes,
So
yes.
we're going to double check that. I'm not doubting you, but I always assume that they paid for the athletes. Whoever paid for the athletes. I expect the parents to pay for themselves.
Certainly a deep flaw as far as athletes and sports persons in this country. Athletes, the absence for so many years of a national stadium and a dedicated
Yes.
facility.
Mhm.
We heard about mini stadia. I'm yet to see one. So, token
Yes.
gestures are given to sports, but practically in terms of what
Yeah.
you see,
Yeah.
what you see is something very, very, very different.
And we see all the Carifta stars, right? We see them do extremely well. But for some reason, from that level to the Olympics, we are losing them.
They disappear.
We are losing them.
Same for our cricket.
We are losing them, of course.
All right. Let us bring the discussion to standards, because remember we started off talking about young people's appreciation for their political directorship. And certainly young people in Barbados cannot be happy if the government is not making that intervention into their lives in terms of education and, as Dennis said, in terms of the curriculum. Let us come to something that we as a party, we have been looking at it, this question of morality versus money. And we've been saying to the public, and we've been saying to our candidates, look, we're not going to the people and making promises that we can hand them lots of money and that we can sponsor these big glitzy events and bring in entertainers from overseas. This has been happening in Elvis. We're simply saying to them, look, we intend to be a moral government. And the battle here will be morality against money. I want to ask y'all, do politicians in Barbados, the politicians we have now, there are 29 in the House, do politicians in government present images of being wealthy?
Yes.
Of course. Yes,
You go
definitely.
first, Dave.
Yes.
In the eyes of young people, in fact, let me tell you a little story first. I was talking to a 17-year-old today, and he was telling me that at school, I asked him, how do your colleagues at school feel about politicians? He said, well, they think they're very rich. And I said, so why do they think they're rich? And he said, well, they think they're rich because they're corrupt. That's what he said. So the question I want to ask you, in the eyes of young people, do modern day politicians present images of being wealthy? I can buy this and I can buy that, even your vote.
Yes. Yes.
Expand on it there.
A lot of the young people in the city,
They think the politicians are wealthy.
very wealthy, politicians only.
Do they say it?
I am going to see you when it's Christmas. Christmas meaning election time.
Really? They say that?
Yeah.
Who says that? The electorate or the people?
Politicians are going to pay for the votes. How much you willing to bet?
Really?
Yeah, because politicians have oftentimes
Does it?
done this.
Yeah. No. But let's go to Vermont.
Oh, definitely. They carry out that type of perception.
Mhm.
I've seen some, and they stand up, and it looks as though they want people to notice them in particular areas.
So it's an image deliberately
Bravado. Yes, of course.
cultivated.
Yes,
I am rich and powerful.
that is correct. Yes,
I can buy you.
of course. And a lot of young people as well too.
Buy into it.
They wait again. They wait Christmas and particular
So the election is Christmas.
and
Once every 5 years.
an effect.
An effect.
Yeah.
So the politician he can pay you for your vote on Christmas Day, election day.
Of course,
He can give you a effect.
of course.
What else?
A distraction. I call it a distraction. Yes, of course.
So you have the money for the vote.
That's the
something to
drink.
drink.
Yeah.
How often? No, you're learning just like me.
Yeah.
Yes.
A long neck.
Along that.
A long neck.
Now, look, as a party, so we as a party have to say morality versus money, morality must win. Because after these gifts, certainly people know that after the gift, the politician is gone.
Of course.
So how do the beneficiaries, how do the people who receive these gifts genuinely feel about the politician? who flashes the money and buys the long neck and the vote and puts on the.
Generally don't like them.
They don't like them.
No.
The politicians say
Correct.
not to know this. They don't like them. How do you know they don't like them?
Because medium persons in line, many of them you just like all of them.
The point.
That's correct.
You just like
That's the point. So they expect us in the Democratic Labour Party to do the thing, but our message has to be different.
one guy told me like 4 years ago, but I would never go pay me $5,000 for his work.
5,000.
Yes. So I said,
She was 30. He was joking.
no, you serious? I said, sorry. So I do some quick math. 5,000 divided by 5 years is $1,000 a year. You're making less than $3.80 per day.
Per day.
So you're trying to think that your value less than $4.
But you should have multiplied 5,000 by, well, you have 10,000 constituents, 5,000 by 10,000. You got to bring Bill Gates to help win
Correct.
on that basis.
So when I told him, I said, well, don't sell yourself at $2 a vote. Sell yourselves based on how we can impact the community, how we can put programs in place
Precisely.
that will 100 years to come.
Using the resources of the state.
Resources, yeah.
Cut out the gathering.
First thing possible.
Yes. Close down the mission in Dubai. I don't know what we are doing in Dubai.
I don't know.
Close down the mission in Kenya. And I'm not being biased there against the African continent, but perhaps a lot of the missions are useless. And I have my suspicions about the Dubai one. I'm going to say a lot about that. And I'm not going to say it in the house because I'm not going to use the house to say things that I don't want to say outside. I'm going to say it at public meetings. I have my suspicions about Dubai. Following on Dale is saying that people out there believe that politicians are corrupt and that they're willing to spend money. This is your view as well.
That's definitely my view, and the view of young people around me as
So
well.
they're very cynical. They have no
Of course.
respect. for
Yes, of
politicians.
course. None at all. I can get a long that. I can get this. I can
What's
get
a long neck, by the way?
It's a Hennessy.
Oh, Hennessy. Don't
Hennessy.
advertise on this show.
Oh, you asked me. You asked me what I call yeah. That's a generic name.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Right?
Okay.
So that's their mentality. When I see them, that is what I'm going to get.
So we as a party, we are fighting against this image.
Yes, that's correct.
And we're saying we don't come with money, we come with morality.
That is correct.
And that it is long term and that we have governmental programs. Certainly we're gonna ensure that your children do not leave school hungry, they do not sit in school hungry, and that when they leave school, the state will continue to protect them.
That's correct. Well, I've heard of situations where, a particular constituent, they would have, taken some money via, when election was on, on that particular day.
Yeah.
And the person would have asked, after the time went on, the person would have asked the particular representative to assist them. And the representative would have said, I already assisted you on that particular day.
Really?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct.
Doc, this question of money versus morality, do young people in Barbados feel that politicians are corrupt?
They do.
They do. And do they see them spending a lot of money across their constituencies?
They see them spending a lot of money generally. They see them living more or appearing to live more comfortably than persons, than the majority of constituents.
Yeah.
As I said, it is genuinely tough, but those in power seem to be living quite comfortably.
People focus a lot on Singapore as one of the success stories in world politics. And one of the approaches of the leader of Singapore at the time, he said, look, I'm going to pay the politicians well, very well. And if I catch you in corruption, you're going to jail. My question is, do you think the salaries of politicians should make them wealthy, or do you think it should make them comfortable? Mind you, there are some people, heads of corporations, whose salaries make them wealthy, heads of corporations and so on. But do you think the salaries of politicians should make them comfortable, or should it make them wealthy?
Should make them comfortable,
Comfortable, not wealthy.
not wealthy.
Right.
In our current setup, that is very risky in terms of the salaries making them wealthy. I think, you know, a lot of the expectations that persons have of politicians has to do with how politicians project themselves, a lot of things that politicians have practiced. And it might have encouraged some less than ideal behaviors.
Yeah.
Definitely persons tend to think that politicians look out for themselves, look out for those closest to them, while only paying token gestures to persons every 5 years, get elected and then banished for the next 5.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cynicism. But during that time, they appear to do well for the next 5 years. They appear to do relatively well. The politician, appears to do relatively well, while they continue to struggle. Whatever they got on election day was long spent before the end of that week.
It's interesting
So they
because
struggle for the next 5 years.
you get a sense, and I'm seeing it, I'm hearing stories of it, that a politician believes that his image is enhanced when he can drive into the constituency and display wealth, spend lots of money, and have that general appearance, that general image of being wealthy. You've seen this, Ramon?
Of course, I've definitely seen it.
Yeah.
What-
And having seen it, the people who observe them, young people, let's talk about young people. How does a young man, like the fellas we saw this morning, how do those young people regard them? They obviously think that they're admired, they're success stories, and they're rich and powerful, rich financially, powerful politically. How does the young person looking on regard him, even if he buys him a long neck at Tuesday, or even if he sponsors a karaoke and thinks nothing of it? How is he regarded?
Okay,
A hero or a villain?
No. There's a huge power gap when you have a situation that the politician is living far above their means. It's a huge power, and there's some envy, and the person will look at that particular situation and say, you know what, I am here down here suffering.
Yes.
I am sucking salt, and
Yes.
I am suffering in a serious way.
So even
And
if he's asking him for money, he still
Of course, definitely.
doesn't regard him highly.
No, he does not. He does
Because
not.
he's one who really got all
Yes.
the money from.
And he's looking at, but you're supposed to be representing me.
Precisely.
You're supposed to be
But
representing
you represent yourself in
Of
your
course,
pocket.
you are representing yourself and your pocket. I see here from a Jonathan,
Yeah, I was gonna
yes,
ask you to read.
a Jonathan B. Our next government administration must help Barbadian youth rediscover their true worth.
Excellent.
That is correct.
What's the name? Jonathan B?
Yes, Jonathan B.
Pity didn't
Yes.
put his whole name. That is excellent. Read it again, Ramon.
Our next government administration must help Barbadian youth rediscover their true worth.
Yeah, and excellent. They made it. Rediscovering your true worth as a human being
That is correct. Yes.
and as a citizen
Yes.
and as somebody who has a right to a future and to feel optimistic, to feel his place in society, even if his circumstances are like all of us here.
Of course.
To be able to afford to live in a country once you're willing to work hard.
Precisely.
If you're willing to work hard, you should be able to afford to live and not have to worry about stray bullets from illegal guns
Yes.
hitting you. You're supposed
Yes.
to be able to walk down the streets and
Mhm.
greet your friends and sit down and talk. And it is any government's responsibility to create, to foster that kind of environment.
And particularly, as you said earlier, if the government appears to be a big spender on itself or in its own interests, like Dale mentioned, regathering, an excellent point. And the government appears to have money to do the things that it wants to do for its own preservation while excluding the people. And I think that's a major problem in Barbados, that the government appears to be spending on itself and fooling people, really, that the money is being spent for them. I wanna come to this question of image again, and it happens much around crop over. And in the last few years, I have seen this emergence of politicians, and you see it on social media. They go and pose in the middle of the street. In some cases, the shirt is off. you're posing off and it goes on social media. And then they become celebrities. They see themselves as celebrities. I always say a politician should not be a celebrity. He should not pursue celebrity status. He should be interested in service.
Yes.
Mhm.
Do you get a sense? Do you get a sense that a lot of our politicians want to be celebrities? Look, a musician, he's a celebrity. A dancer, entertainers are they thrive on that. That is what they are. A person would go to a show at wherever because the person is a celebrity. He is celebrated for his talent. And some politicians want to be celebrated, I don't know for what, for the fact that they're politicians. You get a sense that some of our politicians want to be celebrities.
You get that sense. Most unfortunate though, is one should enter elective politics with the sole purpose of serving
Service, yes, yes. Dale, how do you feel about this celebrity thing? I hope you're not one.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. For me, I lead by example. So one of the good things with being exposed to the youth service, as a leader, I have to carry myself and take a little bit.
Right.
And leading by example, I also have to be able to physically lead my team, not just stand up and say, well, do this, do this, do that. Or
Example.
Example.
Yeah.
I had an event on Monday.
Tell us about it. Tell us about
Yeah,
it.
we had a funday, activity funday. So we had sports, skating, music, netball, a bit of football. A very good year.
Good participation?
Yeah.
Where was it held? Let me check.
That's very fun.
Primary school. And you did a movie night sometime last week?
Yes, on Good Friday.
On the Friday. Good thing.
Yes, sir.
Good wholesome community interaction.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we should Jesus picture children.
And you did not go there and project yourself as the celebrity.
No, sir. I assembled the screen, erect the screen.
Service.
Service.
You're about service. Yeah. So you don't think a politician should be a celebrity?
No, I think it was by example. After the event, the guy that helped me plan the event, Mr. Carrington, him and I we feel the same night. Took all of the garbage on the field.
Continue, but I want you to read board
Sure.
Maxine, please.
This
Say
evening's
something.
conversation.
Hold it.
Go ahead.
You complete your point.
Yes, so for me,
Hold Maxine's point, please.
a politician should lead by example. A politician should not be focused on that celebrity status. Well, you know what? I'm only going to show up and
It's about him.
Cheers, yeah.
Mhm,
So for me, it's not about me.
Yeah.
My slogan is not about me.
That's your slogan?
No, my slogan is
Oh,
a change we can believe in.
excellent.
So it's not about I am the man.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's my slogan. It's for the people.
Yes.
And my goal, my vision,
Yeah.
is to be a part of it.
Beginning with your people in the city,
Yeah.
and they tell me that you are the party spokesperson on poverty alleviation. Perfect. Read Ms. McLean, please.
Yes, this evening's conversation, hearing the voice of males at this juncture in Barbados is very important, and that is very true.
Yes,
Very much so.
That's our Maxine.
Yeah,
That's
that
our
is- that
Maxine.
is it,
Thanks
yes.
for that
Mhm.
comment, Maxine. The all-male panel was not planned, but it turned out to be this way, and it is
Yes.
good to see young men
Yes.
expressing themselves in relation to other young men and the plight of young men. This question of celebrity status, I think we've exhausted it. I think we all agree that we are there to serve and not to make celebrities of ourselves. And I think we will again endorse the party's point that we're not coming with money, we're coming with moral values. And we want to appeal to the people in that way. Do you think, though, in this climate, a politician who emphasizes moral values and says to the country, look, I'm going to tell you the truth about your country. I'm going to tell you the truth about your relationship with your society, with your government. I'm going to tell you that it has to be hard work. And if you can't work hard, the state, if you have some kind of disability, the state will protect you. Even if that is financial and economic disability, the state must undertake to protect those who cannot protect themselves. But do we feel as a party, we're saying it, I think we mean it, I know we mean it. Do you genuinely think that a politician who preaches morality over the money politician, do you think he can defeat the politician who spends a lot of money? Do we think so?
I think he can.
You think he can?
I think he can.
In this climate?
In this climate,
Yes.
it may seem like a David versus Goliath
Right.
uphill battle, especially with things being so tough financially,
Yes.
and people want money, people want cash in
Let me
hand.
interrupt you, because the money politician has failed the people.
Correct. How far has it gotten us?
How far has it gotten us?
And we keep hearing that the economy is doing great. There is bounty, but people, I
Are
repeat,
still suffering.
people are struggling.
So we are in a climate then, Doc, in which perhaps the morality argument could win.
Could win, definitely.
Could
We
win.
have to pray and believe and
Believe.
yes. But you do the right thing because it's the
And
right
work.
thing to do. And work hard. You work
Because
hard
if it don't work,
to convince people of
If
this
it don't work,
message is dead.
there
Is
we
dead.
are.
Yeah.
But do the hard work, convince people to try to convince people of this message. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to
It's the
do.
right thing to do. And that's something that's missing among a lot of our young people. They have never been told what is the right thing to do or the importance of doing the right thing. Ramon, do you think the message of morality over money can succeed?
I definitely think so. People are waiting and looking for an alternative to this particular regime.
Yes.
This particular regime
Yes.
of money,
Money.
and no morals at all. They're
Yeah.
waiting. They cannot wait for an alternative.
If you were to succeed, that motto or that message must have meaning. That morality can and must and will be people. You think it will? By the grace of God.
And just extending that point, Jonathan B. again, under the current BLP regime, public service has become synonymous with self-service.
Excellent.
So said,
I think
yes.
Jonathan B. would put his whole name. He's making some excellent points. Read it again, Ramon.
Under the current BLP regime, public service has become synonymous with self-service.
Self-service. And that fits in with what we said about
That is-
celebrity
that is-
status.
that is
Because
correct.
celebrity is about self.
Yeah, that is correct.
Service
Yes.
is about those who elect
Yes.
you.
Yes, that is correct.
So we as a party, we believe in our, I don't like using the word mantra, in our motto,
Yes.
that this election upcoming will be one of morality over money. Morality involves substance and consistency in terms of our honesty and integrity. And we intend to come to the people of Barbados preaching moral values, preaching that the elevation of their lives is more important than the elevation of the politician's life if he wants to be a celebrity. Which brings us to reputation. I know the cynical voices will say, well, not only the cynical voices, by people's experience, the politician's image has sunk, comes with a lot of money and thinks that he's so big, but the people have a low opinion of him. Among young people, is a reputation for honesty important? Who goes first?
You can go ahead.
You
You can
go
go first. You can go first.
Is-
Oh, yes.
Young people still value their politicians based on a reputation for honesty. Let's say you go and run, and people know you're honest. That's your image. You think that's important to young people?
I think it
Are
is.
they looking for vagabonds?
I think that many expect to see vagabonds, but
They
I think
expect
they're-
that's the
they expect
important
to see
distinction.
vagabonds. But I think they're also looking for honest persons. There is so much cynicism out there. There's so much
they are
apathy.
looking for it.
They're looking for you keep hearing that all one is the same. You're all the same. You're
yes.
in it for yourself. You just
Yes.
want to get your 2 terms and then you're gone. You don't care about the people.
Yes, yes.
So they are desperate to see individuals who are different, who say something and they mean it. They don't just say it to get your vote.
Right.
For whom, how you project yourself, how you interact, they can see it is not about you, the individual, the politician, but
Yes.
it is about them. You have their best interest at heart. I genuinely think there are persons out there looking for it. You get that feedback when you talk with persons.
Yes, they're looking for it. They're craving for it. They don't.
They're tired of the status quo.
They're tired
Where
of
you
the
see
status
politicians elevating themselves,
Yes,
treating them to a few goodies here and there, a little party, a little fest, a little this, a
Correct.
little that. Forget about them for the next 5
Yes,
years, and then
that's
come
right.
back again.
yes. You wanted to read the board remarks?
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Adrian McLean, unfortunately, the majority of persons entering politics look to be served rather than to
Go again.
to serve. Fortunately, the current named DLP candidates all have a background of service to the community.
Please blow that up so we can read it again. make
Yes.
it larger.
No problem.
Go again.
Yes. Unfortunately, the majority of persons entering politics.
Go.
That's all a second. Just a little technical challenge here.
We've lost it.
Yes.
Credit the person.
Yes,
Adrian
that is
McLean.
Adrian McLean. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, the majority of persons entering politics look to be served rather than to serve.
Mhm.
Fortunately, the current named DLP candidates all have a background of service to the community.
Adrian, we thank you for that comment because I always tell the story of a politician, and I was asked to help him with his campaign. And we went to the PR person. And you would find this interesting, Ramon. The PR person said, "So you played any cricket for anybody? No. You played any football for anybody? No. You were involved in any community club? No. Did you do anything in your teens and your 20s? No." And the PR man did not know what to write. But apart from PR, he did not have a grounding, to use the words of Walter Rodney. He never had a grounding with his brothers. He never had a grounding with his community. He was ill prepared. And I want to say to you that I'm not going to call his name, but the quality of that politician's public discourses, speeches, would indicate to you that he lost that early contact with people. And a lot of his public discourse tends to be about abuse, invective, attacking people, insulting people. So that if he had that grounding, and thanks Adrian so much for that point, that if he had the grounding, like Dale here, Doc, you, those beginnings, rubbing shoulders with people in sport, in all kinds of endeavors, whether it's the youth club or so, perhaps he would have been different.
Yes.
And I want to thank Adrian for making that comment. So that we're here now saying that thanks to Adrian, that we are well prepared for the next election, because as Adrian said, we have connections to persons. We say that we believe that politicians who stress morality and honesty can beat the person who only comes with money. Let's come to Parliament. We began the discussion by looking at, and I'm going to call his name because his name needs to be called in Barbados over the next few months. Colin Jordan, referring to my political activities as that of, and I don't want to use the name, I don't want to use the word, but you know, the word he used in Parliament, we're not. We invite people to go on, David, it was the debate from Tuesday, and you go to 2 hours, 47 minutes on the second video, the third video, and hear what Mr. Colin Jordan said, the word that he used, and we're going to play it again tonight before we leave. We play it again. Yes, play it now. Let the public hear it, because I'm on to Parliament now. Let the public hear what Mr. Colin Jordan said in Parliament on Tuesday. We're not defaming anybody. This is what he said.
I, like the Honourable Member for Christchurch South, believe that once we are in this place, having been sent by those who elected us, we speak on their behalf. I know who sent me, and I know where I remain. I'm not courting anywhere else. Those who sent me, as a matter of fact, the Bible has a phrase for those who court outside of who they belong to. It is biblical, Mr. Speaker. I don't know if it is parliamentary, but I suspect that given that we start the day with scripture, that biblical is probably parliamentary. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I know that scripture uses the word whoredom.
So that Mr. Colin Jordan must not be allowed to walk away without public notice as to his conduct in Parliament on Tuesday, the use of those words, the kind of words that would have deterred you from political involvement at the age of 15. There must be other 15-year-old people in this country. If they heard him, how are they going to judge parliamentarians? What are they going to think of us? Do we go there and assault others with that kind of language? And then, worst of all, claim that it is rooted in scriptural verses, using the scriptures, abusing the scriptures, using the scriptures to abuse a fellow parliamentarian. I ask the question, do young people, in your experience, listen to these parliamentary debates now?
Mostly they don't, because they see a disconnect between what is often discussed and said in Parliament and their daily life.
So they're not listening to
They're not
parliamentary
listening.
debate.
A lot aren't listening.
No.
How does what they discuss help me to pay my bills? A little
Precisely.
easier. They know that the decisions that are made there impact their cost of living.
Mhm.
And then examples like what was just showed are extremely disappointing.
Yes,
You know,
disappointing.
yeah, you're
being
supposed to
kind.
be able to, I'm being kind. You're supposed to be able to listen to reason debate
Yes,
like adults.
yes, yes.
You make a point, your point is disagreed with. I disagree with your point because of A, B, C.
Principle.
Let's not get into name
Principle.
calling and principle.
Yeah, and using
I mean,
those,
you know,
those words.
I almost would say grow up.
Precisely. Dale, are your young people in the city and across Barbados listening to the parliamentary debate?
Honestly, they're not.
They're not?
They will not waste their time listening to it. You know,
I'm going to ask you why not, but I'm going to ask you about they listen.
Some
Young
do.
people are
Yes,
listening.
some do,
Some do.
and they would have heard this particular clip. and
Really?
would have been.
When you say young people, what age?
I would say about
Age group?
25, 25, 30.
I think the advantage
Mhm.
Mr. Jordan may enjoy is that
Mhm.
not a lot of people listen to them.
Mhm.
And this is not to be immodest, but I was told that since I crossed the floor, people started listening to the debates because there's context.
Mhm.
But in that context, there's a lot of personal abuse.
Yes.
A lot of personal abuse.
Mhm.
And I want to clear myself. I want to acquit myself of that. I do not get into personal abuse. And every time I go there, personal abuse of me, what he said there.
As I said, grow up. That's how very young
Yeah.
children may behave,
And-
getting into
and-
name
and-
calling
and-
and things
yeah,
like that.
and
It's
he
supposed
says-
to be a place
says-
for level-headed reasons
Precisely.
debate.
And you know, Doc, what disturbs me is that he said that he wasn't sure whether it was parliamentary or not. In other words, I'm not sure I should use this language here, but I'm going to
But still use it.
justify it by
Mhm.
saying that it exists in the
In the
Bible.
Bible, so I can say it.
There's
Okay.
another word, hypocrisy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Why aren't the young people listening? No, you said it. Why aren't your young people listening to Parliament?
Because survival mode right now. Politicians,
Survival mode.
survival.
So there's a distance between what is being said in Parliament and people's reality, people's daily struggle.
No, maybe if Mr. Jordan would focus more on the constituency of Barbadians,
Yes.
he would then understand, what's really going on in today's society.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
addition to that, like I said, your service taught us about leading like example.
Yes.
The crime and the killing and the violence will always be high.
Mhm.
Because if we're gonna have parliamentarians
Mhm.
behaving in such manner,
Mhm.
how can we correct the young males
Yes.
that are in school or secondary school
Mhm. You know, the language that he used is violent. It's an assault. It's an assault against a person's
Yes.
character.
Indeed, we have also heard over the last year, and you said numerous other similar assaults. The behavior is extremely unbecoming, and I'm being kind with my words. I mean, you would think there are other words in the English language that we use. It's not, and quite often it's not a debate. In fact, many of the points that you may raise can't be directly contradicted by them, so it appears they have to get into personal attacks. Instead of saying you are wrong because of dot. They can't say that, so they tell you dress up and walk.
Yeah. I'll tell you of an incident I had on Monday, and I don't mind saying this to the public. There's one in there who, every time I go there, some personal assault, personal abuse, invective. And we went to Oystins on Monday, to the fish festival, to the Oystins festival. And he came over in front of a big crowd. And he hailed me up. They'll criticize me for this, but I like to think that I function according to principles of sincerity. And he reached out to shake my hand. And I refused it. And Elvis, I did that because the public hears him in there every week abusing me. But he comes into a public place and tries to greet me as if we're friends. And then the public looks on and says, oh wait, he is in there cursing him like this. And then meets him outside. And there's this handshake. And the public will dismiss all of us. I'm not into that. If you're going to be abusing me in there.
An impression that you often get in public is that they curse one another for political theater. It's entertainment. But all of them is friends. They're all the same.
So that's why I refused this time. I was saying to him, let your behavior out here in the public be consistent with your behavior in there. And I will not convey to the public that I'm a hypocrite. That, as you say, all that goes on in there's theater. It's not serious. They don't mean anything by it. And he comes up to Oystins, reaching out to shake my hand. And I looked away because I'm not a hypocrite.
And I've heard some young people talking about Parliament like a fish market. You know, it's like it was like a fish market.
Yeah,
you know?
Precisely.
You know, one person is speaking.
I'm not going to call his name though, but he knows now that his behavior in Parliament, as far as I'm concerned, it defines our relationship.
Yes.
If you're going to be insulting me in there, cursing me in there, don't come out into the public domain and try to impress the public that in spite of that personal abuse, we're friends.
Yeah.
And then the public dismisses all of us, Elvis, all of us.
Yes.
And this Democratic Labour Party has to offer a new paradigm in public conduct and public relations.
We have to be serious. Is that what we're telling our children how we want them to behave?
Precisely.
Do as I say, but not as I do. As you said, that is hypocrisy.
It is hypocrisy.
And the young people are watching.
And the young people are watching. Yeah, there are a lot of people there.
Of course they're watching.
And if I had accepted his handshake,
they're watching.
So many people would have dismissed me, friend, for one, and dismissed both of us and say, look, they're friends.
Right. And before we go on, yes,
on.
David Small, we desperately need more social programs in our communities, like the Love and Unity Funday put on by Dale
Excellent. That's
Rowe.
David Small.
Small? Dale Rowe. David Small.
Comment on that, please. David Small says we desperate. Read it again, Ramon. You have the best eyes there.
We desperately need more social programs in our communities, like the Love and Unity Funday put on by Dale Rowe.
Dale, what is he talking about?
He's talking about the event
on Monday. Well, tell him.
So David began himself when
you know David?
Yes.
Oh, good.
David actually helped us plan the event and execute the event.
Where was it done?
Westbury
Primary School. Started at what time?
We started at 10 a.m.
10 in the morning?
Yes. We have skaters that assembled with the using complex.
Yeah.
I skate from the complex straight to Bridgetown, through the city.
On the highway?
And finish at the event.
And what happened outside of that?
Outside of that, we had a stock race.
What time did it finish?
9.
In the night?
Yes.
So from 10 in the morning, 9 at night, 11 hours. Tell us what you were doing.
I was setting up.
No, not you. Tell us what the event was
about. So we had the 100 meter race, the relay.
You took part in the 100 meters?
No, sir. I took part in setting up and breaking down.
So you won that part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
And then we had entertainment for children.
all of this in the Westbury complex.
Yes.
So
So the car park, we had the skaters and the
Right.
skating ring.
mhm.
So persons that were interested in skating could skated. We had vendors from the area that had stalls and sold out.
Really?
Yes.
So it was not only a social activity, it was economic.
Yes.
People came in the community and made some money.
Yes.
And wholesome event. No problem. How many people passed through there that day? You had to pay to come in?
No, sir.
Free. How many persons you had all told?
In total, I would assume like between 150 to 200.
Of the Westbury, New Orleans community. As they say, a good day was had by all.
Yeah.
So, congrats.
A very, very good
Doing
day
great
because
work.
they also,
You were there,
yes,
you
of
were
course, yes. And what struck me,
That's why y'all were at
yes, that's correct. What struck me most is that we had, DL had a young DJ, 13 years old,
Yeah, I saw that. video.
creative,
What's
yes.
his name? Give him some credit.
DJ Zari,
DJ
Zari, yes, a young creative.
I hope he's at
Yes.
school.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So-
young creative.
Elvis, apparently at these fets these days, in our day, the musician was the hero.
Mhm.
The hero is now a DJ.
DJ.
Yeah. So you understand this. I learned this recently.
Apparently, yeah. I'm learning as well because I'm a little older than.
So what does the DJ do? He
He
what's his role?
provides the music. He would then do something called voice.
In my day, the
Mhm.
DJ was a fella down in a corner,
Mhm.
very quietly playing the music.
No.
Nobody paid him any
No,
attention.
DJs now
Now the DJ is up front.
they hype up the crowd. as
They
would
hype
say.
up the crowd.
Yes. They inspire the crowd.
How?
Put it in
How?
Pardon me? Yeah, it's
What
part
do they do? They
What was
make
it?
announcements or something?
Of course, yes, definitely. So in between the minute was jump and wave. Well, it's not jump and wave anymore, but they would
What's
provide.
the thing now?
Well, the DJ sometimes would say pull up, and which
Pull
means
up.
they would pull up the music and
Uh-huh.
so forth. And sometimes they would say, I would give a classic example, DJ playing, and they would talk through the music. They would say, well, this particular dance you do now, etc., etc. But there's other things they would say,
Yes.
but some of the things obviously.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I wish you learned something. The DJ is
Yeah.
now the man.
The man.
But he would inspire the crowd.
He would inspire the
Yes,
crowd.
yes, and he would talk about the song that would be coming next.
A little 13-year-old boy.
Yes.
Hope he was playing wholesome music.
Yes,
Huh?
yes, that's
It was
correct.
wholesome
It
music.
was good.
Yes,
It was good.
sir.
It was good. It was good. Yes.
All right, let's come back to Parliament. There is a rule that Parliament is a privileged environment. You can defame somebody in there if the speaker allows you to, and you can't get sued for defamation. They have what we call parliamentary privilege and immunity against lawsuits or anything said in there. Do you think that is a rule that we should continue to have, that a parliamentarian can go in there and defame you? And what normally happens, the fellow that he assaults would say, come outside and say, daring him to come out and
Come
say,
out and say,
and
yeah.
Elvis, they never
They can't.
come out
They
and say
can't.
it.
They're not going to.
So if a fellow knows that he cannot say it outside,
Why say it in there?
why say it in there? Do you think we should have that rule that protects him? Yeah, it protects him. He knows he can't say it outside, but he can say it in there. And it goes to the microphone and it goes to the entire world. Do you agree with that rule, or do you think it should be limited?
I think it should be
privilege.
limited. It allows, as you said, the parliamentarian to do that. The person on the outside cannot similarly do the same. And in any case, shouldn't want to do that.
Should not. That's
Should
the
not
point.
want to do
That's
that.
the point. Should not want to.
And we have clearly seen things said in Parliament over the years that should not have been said. Our
Yeah.
young people are watching.
Are watching. That's
It
the
is not a
point.
movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It is supposed to be a place of serious debate about
Correct.
the business of people, not name calling and getting all like a little child.
Yes. Yes. Dave, you like the rule? You feel you should go in there?
Honestly,
Is there
sir,
anything you like?
no, I think we should cut it. The reason being,
Cut it.
managing hotels,
Mhm.
managing hotels and restaurants, when we have our managerial meeting, we present facts, we disagree, and then we come up with a solution to help the company. So I personally believe that we should, not focus on name calling or trying to bring down somebody.
Mhm.
The focus should be what or how can we help the wider markets,
Right.
not, same around your head, big. So, no, we can't do that. Let us focus on the business. What is the business? What are the solutions?
Seriously.
Let
Yeah.
us help the people.
Give us a read up, CD.
Yes,
Thanks.
CD, yes, Mr. Thorne, as I said, is the art of
Creating.
creating. That's creating.
Creating impressions.
Yeah, creating impressions. You rejected the impressions and stuck with the truth. This is what is needed in our politics.
Thanks, CD. Thanks for that vote of confidence. A vote against hypocrisy. And as the doc said, giving people the impression that it is theater. It's not serious. You can behave as you like in there, come out and embrace each other. Esther Blue is saying something.
Yes. The public no longer sees Parliament as a decent place to be these days. Just
Thanks,
what we
Esther.
were saying.
Thanks for that. That's consistent
Yeah,
with
that's-
what we were saying.
Of course, of course.
Let's come to women in politics and women in parliament. Always a minority, the producers tell us. Oh yes, Sinclair Phillips, that's Sinclair Phillips?
Yes.
Tell us what Sinclair is saying, please. You can see it.
Yes.
Ramon?
Mr. Thorne, I think the rule shall remain. You get to know what is in the craw, what is in the craw of that person.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. He thinks, let them expose themselves.
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh.
Yes.
Preacher. I want to come to, we have 15 minutes. I want to come to the issue of women always being a minority in politics and certainly in parliament. Why are so few women in politics and therefore in parliament? Who goes first? Dale? Frankie first.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Oh.
Sure, sorry. I was reading the comment.
Oh, you read it. Okay, we come back to you. Why are so few women in politics?
I think historically that was the situation, and
It's historically
yes, when obviously a woman goes to that level and so forth, is the perception of
Yes.
other people where she is concerned. You know, she's aggressive. You know, because historically, as you would know, it's a male-dominated field.
Yes. Doc, why are so few women in politics and therefore parliament?
I think what Ramon said, there's the historical aspect. There's also the aspect of how nasty politics has been, and you know that might be something that turns off a number of women. It also can be very demanding, you know, in terms of pulling persons away from home and so on, and there may be children involved. Obviously, you would have to hear from the women themselves. But I suspect those are some of the reasons.
Or two female panelists were absent tonight. Or late.
Yes.
Dale, why so few women in politics?
I think because women think that it's a very dirty game and you have to be corrupt to be a successful or a good politician. So, you know, a lot of women with a kind heart and that perspective, I think that women then shy away from wanting to be mixed up in any corruption. But I think we need more women as politicians. I really do, because I think that women bring a different
Perspective.
a different
experience.
as it relates to politics.
Yeah,
I think we need that gentle touch.
You know, there's a sense in which, and I hope the married people on this panel don't mind, I have too. But women, I think Elvis run the household. I mean, we fool ourselves
Yeah, for sure.
fairly often.
Yeah, I used to call her boss. I still do. You're the boss.
You're going to have a good, long, happy marriage. Yeah, and if a woman can be the boss in the house,
She will
she will be the boss in politics.
Yes.
And this is not to give justification to the president at all, but there are many flaws there. Women tend to be held to a higher standard in politics. Let me say a man, for example. I remember the English Prime Minister John Major was accused of being very boring. He had no appeal. He was boring. And I think it was it Owen Arthur who said, he needs an outside woman. We laugh. Y'all can laugh out. I think somebody said he needs an outside woman. In other words, he needed to put some interest in his life or in his image And as a man, that's acceptable. It is acceptable for a man to,
Shouldn't be.
well, it is by societal standards. People accept womanizing by male politicians. And if a lady is in politics, they don't even like her to have one man.
It shouldn't be acceptable. As you said, women,
But the point is,
yeah,
women are held to a different
standard.
standard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you find so,
Yeah.
and perhaps that's one of the reasons you don't find many women in politics. That the way she dresses, for example,
Scrutinized more.
she's scrutinized
Yeah.
more. Ah, look how she got on the armhole. So women are held to that higher standard. So perhaps we should consider holding men and women the equal. Not that we want indecency among either, but generally women are held to that higher standard. We agree?
We should be held to the same high
That's
standards.
the point.
Of course,
That's the
of
point.
course.
That's the point. And if we're gonna spurn a woman's behavior sexually, equally we must spurn a man's behavior sexually.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that they must both be held to a high moral standard.
Yeah.
Very high standard.
Before we go on to more,
Yeah, please.
CEF Barbados. Congratulations to Dilro on being selected as the spokesperson for poverty alleviation. Yes.
CEF is the church. That's a church. Oh, okay. Well, we join in saying congratulations. You want to read Lemuel, or should we? Producer, should we read Lemuel? You vet it first. Producer or director, we can go.
Lemuel Tell, when last did we have a speaker who was brave enough to discipline a member of government? I saw Mr. Maxwell discipline both Mr. Barrow and Mr. Adams.
I'm old enough to tell you that that was Mr. Neville Maxwell, who was the of the Democratic Labour Party, and Mr. Barrow at the time would have been Prime Minister,
Yes.
and Mr. Adams at the time would have been the leader of the opposition, and he disciplined both of them. I wonder if I'm allowed to tell you that I have not seen that level of discipline by the Speaker in this present Parliament. I haven't seen it. Certainly when Mr. Jordan said, and I'm going to call him Mr. Jordan, when he said what he said on Tuesday, there was no sanction. Nobody asked him to withdraw the words, although, and I'm going to repeat this, although he said it is probably unparliamentary, or did he say he isn't sure
Not
that
sure if
it's
it's parliamentary.
unparliamentary or not. So he had his doubts. So having those doubts, he ought not to have said it. And then the word he used, which none of the formassers is going to use tonight, the word he used is not a word that ought to have been used in Parliament. So let us leave Mr. Jordan. I don't think he should dominate our discussion tonight, although he inspired it in the breach. He inspired it by his bad behavior. Let us ask the question, should the minimum age of Parliament be lowered or raised? Somebody said it was 18 before we came on. 18. Should we raise that? We should raise it. Producer, it's 18, isn't it?
Yes, 18. 18 for lower house, 21 for the Senate.
I don't know. Y'all are young people. Start thinking about this one. Should that minimum age be? I don't think it should be lowered. I mean, I don't think any of us here
Lowered.
Lowered. You can't ask a 70-year-old man to vote for a 16-year-old boy. Should we consider raising it? And I'll tell you why I say this, so that it spurs your thought. When we held this program last week, I think one of the viewers, Esther Blue, referred to parents being younger, and we clarified that Esther may have been saying that they're younger in terms of maturity and not chronological age. And if we remain consistent with that argument, that our people are maturing, taking a longer time to mature, because there are people 35 now. who still don't have that sense of responsibility. I know you're reluctant to answer this because you don't want to offend, so you don't answer. You don't answer. Let Elvis answer. How do you feel about the minimum age of qualification for Parliament? 18, 25?
It probably could be, 21 for both.
21.
But what I think ultimately should happen is, because the public, makes the decision of who, in any constituency, who they will vote for to go to Parliament to represent them. It comes down to who we see in persons, because, persons mature at different ages.
Yes.
You may have a reasoned, level-headed, mature 21-year-old, and immature middle-aged person who gets into name calling.
Right.
So it's not just the age in and of itself, but is the person fit for task?
Yes.
Able to execute their responsibilities in a reasonable, level-headed, mature manner.
Let us hasten to add that we're not talking about voting age. That's 18.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't think anybody
representing people in the House,
Parliament.
in Parliament.
And you think they should be more mature. At whatever age they should be
Correct.
mature. Well,
Yes.
they should be mature people. All right, let's go to the Senate, and that's the upper house. And I want to say to you, that's based on an old British elitist tradition. The upper house, the lower house, and you'll find this very interesting. The lower house in Britain is called the House of Commons. And the upper house, the House of Lords. You knew this, right, for a while?
Yeah.
And the language alone tells you. So the Lords used to be Lords, so on and so forth. And then the people that were voted for, they're the commoners.
Yeah.
And that's a tradition we inherited. So the people who got voted for are in the lower house. The House of Assembly is the lower house. And the Senate, they're appointed. And that's a system that is elitist. Why, you may ask the question, why do you have to be up and down the city fighting for people to vote for you? And then after the election, somebody calls Sir John, somebody is appointed and sent into the Senate. Do you think that, like America, we should be voting for our senators?
I think so.
You think so? Ramon, you're too quiet.
I do think so.
You do think
Yes,
so?
I do think so.
So you don't support this elitist system in which you just sit back and wait on friendship, prime ministerial friendship, or the confidence of the leader of the opposition, or indeed the head of state. The head of state gets to appoint 7. So you have 12 and 7, 19, and 2 people, 21 persons. Nobody voted for them, but every week they're striding in there and calling themselves senators, and not a fella voted for them.
Well, I know it
You're against that.
grows heads, as we talked about on the show nearly the whole night.
Yeah.
The head is swollen.
Yes.
Yes. Swollen. Yeah. Then the arrogance kicks in. How the direction that goes.
Yeah. I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah.
That and the government promised a new constitution, and we haven't seen the content of that new constitution. I think they probably collected 1 or 2 from the supermarkets, and so most Barbadians don't know what is in there. If you had to be a part of a government with the new Republican constitution, would you then propose that the Senate be an elected body as opposed to appointed?
Yes, I that would certainly be my proposal, because you want them to speak for the people. You want persons in our parliament in general to speak for the
In a
people,
genuinely representative
in a
capacity.
representative way, and understand that first and foremost, it's the people,
Yes,
not the party.
correct.
It's the people they represent.
Precisely.
You need to listen to the people. There
Precisely.
seems to be a lot of tone deafness in Parliament. You need to listen to the people. So once the government puts you there, and if you dare, by the way, to speak for the people, like a dear senator did recently, you get fired.
Yes.
Because you actually care to represent people's interests
Precisely.
and not the party's
And you're
interests.
punished for it.
And you're punished for it.
Abuse of power.
Abuse of power.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Don.
100%. Elect your senators
Senators,
so that they speak genuinely for those who elected them.
correct, not favor the party over the people.
Right. So that a prime minister cannot fire a person
Correct.
for speaking on behalf of the people. I wonder if we should remind the media that that's a big issue in Barbados.
Yeah, we should.
And that's a bigger issue than the minor things that occur in the Democratic Labour Party that they focus on. Ramon, you want your senators elected?
I want my senators elected.
You want your
as well.
senators elected?
That is correct, yes. For the people, for the people.
They're there to serve the people, not the
Of
prime
course,
minister.
serve the people. So that
Not the prime minister. After all, it's the people paying the salary.
Yeah.
The prime minister doesn't pay the senator's salary.
Precisely.
The people of Barbados pay the salary. The people of Barbados need to be represented by
Thanks for
those whose
reminding.
salary they pay.
Excellent. Thanks for reminding us and the people of Barbados that what's the senator's name? Senator Crystal Haynes
Yes.
was fired because she spoke against the government on the whole town issue. And that remains an issue related to the abuse of power, the abuse of political power in Barbados. And we invite the media to focus on that and to ask some questions. So that from this representative body of the party, four of us, we're only four voices, but we are honest voices for the people. You're hearing a proposal tonight that the Senate in a new administration should be an elected body. And next week, the Senate is at the apex of the parliamentary system. Let us, next week or week after next, because I think we have next week's topic already, let us come back next week or the following week and look at local government. Local government is something that's very, very important in Barbados, in an administration or in a system that tends to be top heavy. We talked about politicians displaying wealth and power, and a lot of that power does not filter down to people. And local government concerns itself with the filtering down of power and responsibility. Not so much power, but responsibility to the citizens to manage some of their own affairs. So in a future program, we're going to discuss that. But we've had an excellent discussion
Yes.
tonight.
And just before
One message you want to read again?
Yes. Honest voices for the people, a call to action. North Zone meeting, can't miss it. Don't miss it. Sunday, April the 27th, 2025, 5 p.m. Alexandra School, Queen Street, St. Peter. That's actually my alma mater. Yes,
Really?
and of course, yes, my alma mater. Yes.
And we're launching who's election bid?
It's Felicia Dijon, of course. Yes, Felicia Dijon. Yes,
Who are
for
the
sure.
speakers?
The speakers are Mr. Ralph Thorne, Miss Felicia Dijon, Mr. Andrea Worrell, Senator Andrea Worrell, apologies, Mr. Pedro Shepherd. No,
Oh.
that's Shepherd. Yes.
Oh,
Mr. Pedro Shepherd, Miss Amoy Gildenborn, and Mr. Paul Gibson. Don't miss it.
What
You can't
time?
miss it. 5 p.m. Sorry.
Yeah.
Feeling, man.
Alexandra School.
Alexandra School.
Queen
Yes.
Street,
Queen Street, now.
5 p.m. Sunday.
Peter, that is correct.
And tell all Democratic Labour Party supporters what we're doing on Sunday morning.
Sunday
It's
morning.
this Sunday, right?
Yes, that's correct. The 70th years of the Democratic Labour Party. We're celebrating church services, Restoration Ministries International. Do not miss it. Cannot miss it. Looking at the time. The time 8:30 a.m. 8:30 a.m.
8:30
Do not miss it. And the church again, Restoration Ministries.
Gunsight Road.
That is Gunsight Road, Britons Hill, St. Michael.
Okay. And the picnic, we can do the picnic next week. We can advertise the picnic next.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Let's
no
hold
problem.
on the picnic.
Yes.
I mean, that's right.
Yes.
Senator Walters' picnic. That's
May
the
4th.
week
May-
after next.
That is correct. The 4th of May, Sunday.
May.
Yes. Just
So
turn down the
Sunday-
pot. Turn down the pot and come.
Let me put in one for St. Lucy in we've gone past the time. St. Lucy has its meeting on Sunday, I think at 4:30, 4 or 4:30, at North Stars. So St. Lucy people, you will go to the St. Lucy branch meeting and then you leave there and come down to Queen Street in Spikestown. And we're going to have a good weekend of politicking and taking the message to Barbadians. We had an excellent time here tonight. Thanks, Doc. One more message the producer tells me. We can't have dead air here, so we have to do some talking. So while you are looking for this elusive ad, Not Mr. Jordan again, please. Community connections. We are doing a community connections, and let us say to the public that the Democratic Labour Party had long started its campaign in St. James North, and it continued. They were canvassing again yesterday. That continues on Saturday afternoon. We are meeting, all members and supporters are meeting at 2 p.m. at the
Peace of mind, Spikestown.
in Spikestown. And we're meeting there and going into the constituency of St. James North to have or to connect with the community. We call it community connections. We are connecting with the community on Saturday evening, 2 o'clock, Pizza Manda in Spikestown. And from there we disperse into St. James North and spread the word of the Democratic Labour Party. There's a mood of change. There's a mood for change in this country, and we are taking it very seriously. We had an excellent time here tonight. Panelists, thanks so much for another good night. We lost our 2 female participants, and perhaps they will turn up early next week. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah.